Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sporty's webinar on what's new in learning to fly, where we're going to explore a little bit about the process and how to get there. I'm Eric Radke. I'm the Chief Instructor at Sporty's and also the President of Sporty's Academy, our educational division. I'm also your webinar facilitator and presenter for the evening. On behalf of Sporty's, certainly appreciate you joining us this evening. I'm very excited to be here tonight as well to discuss a topic that is very near and dear to me. I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to know from a very early age that I wanted to fly, and it has literally taken me all over the world and allowed me to meet many friends along the way. I can honestly say, having found work in aviation, that having to come to the airport each day is hardly a job. Note before we get started is that this webinar and all Sporty's future webinars will be archived on our website, so if you need to step away or happen to miss something during the presentation, you'll be able to access this webinar at sportys.com/webinars. During the presentation, please feel free to submit questions via the webinar software, and we'll set aside some time at the end of the presentation to answer some of those questions. So again, welcome, and we will go ahead and get started. I told you a little bit about myself already. In addition to my Chief Instructor responsibilities at Sporty's, I oversee all of our educational activities. That includes a very active flight school at a vibrant general aviation airport here on the eastern side of Cincinnati. Fortunate we're enjoying some just spectacular weather here in the Midwest, continuing that trend of just mild weather that we've gotten all winter long. So we operate the flight school. We have just about 13 aircraft and nearly 20 flight instructors. In addition to that, our educational team produces all of the video training material that you might know us for and maybe have seen before. And on that topic, I'm also, in addition to the outline you see there, that we're going to talk a little bit about why one might choose to learn to fly, and a little bit about how to begin, some common myths, and also issues to consider. I'm also going to give you a preview of a brand new video training program that we just launched called the Sporty's Learn to Fly course. You know, to say that flying is unique and that it opens up a world of possibilities is really the understatement of the evening. The whole Learn to Fly process, as we progress through this webinar, everyone should keep in mind and frame this around the thought that the Learn to Fly process is simply a gateway. It's a gateway into something much larger than that. It's a lifestyle. It's a new way of transportation and opening up places and people and opportunity. It's the ultimate in terms of freedom. There's a little under 600,000 licensed pilots out there right now of a population of over 300 million. So the pilot certification is unique in that respect. And this is very much a new challenge. Powered flight has only been around a little over 100 years. So those of us who've been lucky enough to partake, that is really something very special and something to consider. For the adventurous types out there, there are over 19,000 landing places, destinations in the continental U.S. alone that so few people get to experience and see because the airlines, only serve a very small fraction of those places, and it's just absolutely limitless to what you can see out there in terms of aviation. A sense of accomplishment, absolutely. That's important for a lot of people, and again, I talked about what a rare occurrence it is to even become a licensed pilot, and what a special opportunity it is. So, rightfully so, it will very much provide that sense of great accomplishment. And again, back to what I had mentioned during the first slide, that view this process as a gateway opportunity. It can very much be a life-changing event into just a new lifestyle. To learn a little bit more about the audience this evening, I'm going to launch a quick poll about why you might be considering Learn to Fly, and give just a moment for the results to come in. Thank you very much for those of you who are participating right now. I see a number of you, which is very expected, are interested in aviation as a recreation, hobby, enjoyment. And these don't have to be exclusive. I understand that there might be some crossover, and those of you who are looking to pursue this as a career, possibly for business, part of life's to-do list, which some of you have responded to. There can be some crossover there, and rightfully so. But I also see a number of individuals are interested in learning to fly as a career. And that's great to see, wonderful to see. On that topic, I can tell you that the opportunities right now in terms of the aviation job market just look spectacular, because we're approaching really the perfect storm of really mass exodus or retirement from the airline ranks as the baby boomer generation approaches the airline mandated retirement age of age 65. So we're going to see a great, just tremendous turnover at the airlines that has never been seen before. So there's going to be a lot of great opportunity there, and an opportunity to maximize earning potential in professional aviation, because you're able to elevate your pay early on and upgrade your rank to possibly captain for a longer period of your career. In addition to that, more and more people are flying. There's going to be a great deal of opportunity, not only in this country but all around the world. Southeast Asia in particular is going to experience some tremendous growth. All the experts essentially agree on that. So this is a fantastic opportunity for those of you out there who might be considering aviation as a full-fledged career, as I have, and never looked back and enjoyed doing it very much. If you haven't been sold already with some of what I've mentioned, aircraft are time machines. They can, create time that wouldn't otherwise be available and is not available with any other form of transportation. Allows a lot of direct-to flying without the hassle of big airline hubs and all of the other aspects that go with it in terms of long lines and security and cramped seating and the inability to take everything you want and having to pay for bags. Personal aviation, personal transportation, it really alleviates all of that. A quick personal story that I think just really hits home in terms of the flexibility and all the time and accessibility you gain with personal air travel. I've had several trips recently for business that have required me to be in the Washington, D.C. area. And I mentioned before, I'm here at the world headquarters of Sporty in Cincinnati, Ohio. And an airline flight, I'll expense aside because the expense is tremendous to get an airline flight. But keep this in mind, I'm approximately a half hour to 45-minute drive to the airport that would have airline service into the D.C. area. You have to be there 1.5 hours to 2 hours early to make sure you can get through security and get to your gate on time, and park in a long-term parking, which also has some added costs. And then the flight is a little over an hour over to the DC area, and then you have to be concerned about getting transportation, of course, to your ultimate destination. The whole process takes an hour flight really into about a 6-hour trip. Whereas with personal transportation, I can be in and jump in one of our flight school airplanes. And I can, be there in time to properly inspect the aircraft prior to flight, but get in, load what I want in the airplane, go at my leisure because I'm the one that's controlling the on-time departure, if you will, and I can A, have a lot of fun, B, see just spectacular, beautiful countryside along the way, traveling from here to the East Coast, and I can make that trip in a little over 2 hours. Maybe speaking conservatively, tack on 30 minutes on top of that for, like I said, getting the aircraft ready for flight, tie up my airplane at a GA-friendly airport in the D.C. area, and hop on the metro train and be downtown in another half hour. The whole process is 3 hours. I've literally shaved that trip. I've cut that trip in half. And that's powerful, especially for for those of you who responded to my poll about maybe seeing this as for business opportunities. Consider what your time's worth, because certainly speaking personally, I can say that I had a lot more fun doing it, and I was able to gain half the time that it would have otherwise taken me. Just a gem, just a great opportunity. This is open to learning to fly. The process flight training is literally open to anyone. There are no maximum, there are no minimum ages. There are some to gain pilot certification, but to come out and enjoy an introductory flight at an airport, that's open to all. Aviation draws individuals from all walks of life into a great big melting pot that turns out to be a very small and close-knit aviation group and aviation community. And I know a lot of you out there, and me included, enjoy meeting new and interesting people and enjoy spending time from a camaraderie standpoint with others who share your same hobbies and interests and passion. The airport is the ultimate for that. It attracts everyone who has an affinity, has a love and interest in airplanes and aviation, and it's a fantastic place to share some of that, and being around, being involved in just a positive environment where everyone again is interested in very much the same things. The type of aircraft that you can fly, possibly that you can rent, that you can train in, that you can possibly acquire for your own personal transportation, they come in all shapes and sizes. Literally, I can say there is something for everyone in all price ranges, big and small. Owning an airplane or even renting an airplane can again be a surprisingly practical and economical. I mentioned my personal story about using personal transportation to get myself over to the East Coast. There are dozens of stories just like that from thousands of other pilots all around the world. And again, an aircraft for every mission. Being able to get to direct to destinations without following the airline's kind of hub and spoke system. Again, that goes back to that kind of time machine aspect, that this can really trim valuable time and allow you to spend more time doing the things that you enjoy. And when it's all said and done, I think I would probably not have any argument with anyone out there that that's really what's important. I challenge everyone really to think about learning to fly and the use of personal transportation in terms of value. We spend a lot of time, and there are certainly a lot of questions about raw dollar cost, and we'll address those later on in the webinar here. But in terms of raw dollars and cents, that means something different to each and every person. But what is kind of a universal truth is that everyone understands value. What is valuable from one to the other may differ, but everyone understands the term and expression. So when you are evaluating the value proposition of learning to fly in personal transportation and recreation and fun and adventure and thrill and aviation, do keep in mind that this is knowledge and skill that no one can take away from you. Pilot certificates do not come with expiration dates. There are required proficiency elements that you have to meet to maintain currency, but once you have that certificate in hand, it doesn't expire. And again, I talked about looking at this as a gateway opportunity into thrill and adventure, and there having been less than 600,000 licensed pilots, it can be just present all these safe and rewarding pleasures and freedom, and again can be that ultimate time savers, not to mention that sense of accomplishment I mentioned. So when you're making that positives list, again, look at this from a value proposition and everything that it can do for you in the future moving forward. For those of you who had answered in the poll that you were interested in as career opportunities, I can say that there are great opportunities in all these areas associated with aviation right now. I focused a lot on airlines, but corporate aviation, business aviation, companies big and small all across the world depend on aviation daily for access again to people and opportunities, and that's been a growing area and will continue to be. Charter operations, of course, military, law enforcement has seen tremendous growth in the last few years. Education is another area that I'm involved with that can provide some tremendous rewards and great career opportunities there. And then I'm sure, you know, those of you who are out there, a lot of people out there are thinking about dozens of others interesting, you know, business opportunities or prospects that could involve aviation. When you're in this process, which I, you know, consider this webinar tonight part of the information gathering process, there are just numerous internet resources out there. I'm going to mention one in particular, a website that Sporty's built and maintains and is responsible for all the content on, is learntoflyhere.com. Learntoflyhere.com. It's got a number of generic information on learning to fly, a lot of informative articles. We even have some video up there to assist you in the process and talk to you about what it will be like, especially on that first flight. We're going to give you some interesting insight on some things to consider and things to look for when choosing a flight school to work with and a flight instructor, and give you some great resources there on even finding a place where you can learn to fly that you're going to be comfortable with, and getting that first kind of step or that first flight scheduled if you haven't done that already. And before I move on to the next poll, I do want to make one other mention that a lot of us, continue to be surprised by the number of people that I talk to who might be interested in aviation that know someone that helped maybe to inspire them to come out to the airport. They know someone that maybe it's a distant relative, a friend of a friend type thing that is involved somehow. And I would strongly encourage you to talk to those individuals. Anyone that has some firsthand experience with an aviation organization or knows the culture and environment at a specific airport, that's insight and that's valuable knowledge that it's tough to come by with online resources. So if you know one of those individuals out there, and many of you do, I encourage you to learn all you can from them. Our next poll, where are you in the process? This will just help me, again, learn a little bit more about the overall audience tonight. And as the results are coming in here, let's see. A lot of you, as expected, and probably the reason for tuning in, are in the information gathering phase, but a number of you have taken an intro flight, and that's fantastic, and some of you have even started in on a few lessons. So I think I do have information that will be useful in the remaining part of the webinar for each and every one of you, no matter what phase that you are in. So I appreciate you giving me that feedback, and I'll try to shape some of the information related to that. How do you go about doing this? Well, kind of my first disclaimer is, don't think there's a lot of great insight and valuable information you can gain ahead of time, especially when it comes to selecting the organization or individuals that you'll be working with. But there's no need to get bogged down in all the details. There's a lot of information that will come gradually. There's information that's not needed before you start the process. So it's easy, especially in the internet age, to get bogged down in so much of the information very early on. And without having some guidance related to that, that can be a dangerous mix. So while it is very important, again, to have a good foundation to start, information will come. It's not necessary to be an expert right out of the gate. As I mentioned before, there's no maximum or minimum age to learning to fly. And talking about pilot certificate options, I mentioned when I was describing the type of aircraft and how there is something for everyone in terms of personal transportation. That same philosophy comes with what type of certification. I really believe there's something for everyone in learning to fly. And don't think because you like airplanes and enjoy coming out to the airport that you absolutely have to earn a pilot certificate. There's nothing that says that. I know individuals, and we work with clients, and we have for a number of years, who enjoy coming out and going up with a flight instructor and taking a casual, leisurely, fun flight around the local area, and that's perfectly okay and perfectly acceptable. So keep in mind that there's nothing you have to do. I mean, this is a voluntary step here. But when I talk to individuals about what type of certificate options they're looking at, I hear a lot about the private pilot certificate. And I think a lot of that has to do with that's just become the generic term when someone wants to learn to fly for their own, for recreational hobby. The private pilot certificate has been around the longest, and it's just become the generic term for learning to fly. What you might not know as much about are some other certificate options that don't have quite all the privileges that a private pilot might, but may be perfect for what you're looking to do, especially related to the poll information that you've sent in. The recreational and sport pilot certificate options, very similar. They're going to take roughly about the same amount of time, which is going to be a fraction of what it will take to get to the private pilot certificate, so it can be a very manageable and affordable certificate option that breaks down all this information I'm talking about into smaller, more manageable segments. That's what I really like about those certificate options, especially to start. Another key component or key, we're talking about value of recreational sport pilot training, is that all of that knowledge and skill set and studying and preparation that you will do for either of those certificate options, which again can be broken down into smaller, more manageable segments, can all be used toward the private pilot certification. So it's not like you're selecting one and then having to go back and repeat information. This is all, you can think about this as a building block approach to learning. You start with that base knowledge foundation, and then you build on that either towards the recreational or sport pilot training, and then you continue to build for the private pilot training. So I encourage you to explore those certificate options. Recreational and sport pilot certificates can be done in a legitimate 30 to 40 hours of pilot training. They can be done in a legitimate 2-3 month time period if you can devote a couple of days a week to the training, and allows you to go up in smaller aircraft with a passenger on good flying days during the day. And I know it has to be for a lot of you out there, me included. That's what you're interested in doing. That's the stress reliever. That's what gives you pleasure and reward of your pilot certificate. So don't think that there is this massive undertaking involved to learn to fly towards a private pilot certificate, which can take considerably longer at a significant additional cost. There are intermediate certificate options, and then, as I mentioned before, also the option to simply come out to the airport and go flying and take a series of introductory flights, or even get that first solo under your belt. That's a training option and a training module that's we often overlook. It's a step that everyone has to go to in order to get to a pilot certificate, but it's the first time that you're actually flying the airplane by yourself. It's not an actual certification. It's just an endorsement from an instructor. But again, it's a feat that very few have accomplished, and if everyone could get your goals set initially on that first solo, I don't know about you, but I'm very goal-oriented, and setting goals that, again, are manageable and more easily accomplished, I think will aid everyone and assist everyone into getting to your ultimate destination, your ultimate end, whether that's a certificate or whether that's simply a first solo. For the recreational or private pilot certificate, a course of training, and to solo toward either of those certificate options, you will need to earn an FAA medical certification. Seems to be, there's oftentimes a lot of trepidation on the part of individuals to go see perhaps an unfamiliar face, because FAA medical certificates need to be issued by an aviation medical examiner. Not all physicians are aviation medical examiners. It's very easy to do an online search to find those aviation medical examiners that are in your area. But it is a very basic physical. The way it's best described is it's a basic physical, and if you're in reasonably good health and you possess a driver's license already and you're not on steady medication or have very obvious medical disqualifications, the medical certificate process can be very easy to move through. The application form for the medical is available online. It's something I would encourage you look over ahead of time before going to the office, because of course, like any medical form, it will ask some history, etc. And the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, AOPA, I'll make a quick pitch. They do have a fantastic resource called Turbo Medical. And it's an online resource for members. You do have to be a member of AOPA, but it's an opportunity for you to complete and ask questions related to the medical application process before going to see the physician. So you know early on if there are question marks, that would be a great resource to take advantage of. For the Sport Pilot training, the Sport Pilot training has what we call self-certifying medical status, meaning you don't have to possess a separate document from the FAA in a medical certificate. You certify on your own. You do have to possess a valid driver's license, but you make your own determination essentially that you are fit for flight. So we eliminate the one step in Sport Pilot training. Everyone does have to possess a student pilot certificate. The student pilot certificate, typically if you're pursuing a medical certificate, the student pilot certificate will be issued by the same person, the same physician giving the medical exam. And it oftentimes will even be on the same piece of paper, double-sided. One side will be the medical and one side will be the student pilot certificate. Student pilot certificates can also be issued by local FAA offices and also designated pilot examiners, and these are instructors typically that are based at your local airport. So the student pilot certificate is really a non-event and very easy to obtain. Moving on through the certification, every person will also, to ultimately earn your FAA license, you will have to complete an FAA written exam as well as an in-airplane flight test. Just like your driving exam, if you can remember back to that, there will be a computer test, and there's a lot of great resources out there that I'm going to talk about in the upcoming slides to get you well prepared for that. And then there'll be the in-airplane test. And if all that training has been done right and your preparation has been thorough, that actual flight test that will result in the FAA pilot certification will be just like going up on another flight, as it should be. There's a variety of equipment. This is a fun part, as I always say. I mean, if you're into skiing or biking or what have you, there's the gear, the must-have gear that you need. If you're into running, jog, whatever the gear, all hobbies, have certain gear that you have to kind of be part of the club, so to speak. And I see that as a fun and enjoyable part. Well, aviation's no different. There are flight jackets, there are, flight gear bags to keep your aviation headset in, and field testers and some charts. This, the expense relative to what you'll invest in the overall training, this is very minimal for the equipment. I would, there's nothing you have to have up front ahead of time, ahead of that first flight. This is equipment you'll acquire gradually during the training. This is equipment that will typically be with you throughout your aviation career. So it's not like a fee or a one-time purchase that you'll use once and not use again. This is all an investment. So look forward to that. Don't look at that as a hurdle of any sort. Online resources and self-study courses, that's kind of what I'm going to transition into now, can be just invaluable tools to assist and make the overall training process much more enjoyable, much more productive, and most importantly, much more efficient in terms of when you're at the airport and you have an instructor with you and you're obviously paying for that instructor's services and time and you're paying for aircraft. I'm assuming that most people wish for that time to be very efficient, to be able to accomplish a lot of tasks and meet the day's objectives in a short amount of time as possible. Well, these resources can help you do just that. There are a variety of video-based flight training courses. And the value of that video-based is we can actually put you on the flight deck. We can put you in the airplane. We can show you through animations and graphics exactly how maneuvers are to be performed, exactly what the picture should look like out the window when you're learning how to take off and you're learning how to land the airplane and you're learning how to perform ground reference maneuvers, etc. It can keep you engaged in the learning process. even on your days when you're not coming to the airport. Keep in mind that a portion of learning how to fly is acquiring a physical skill. And with anything, you can have some degradation of skill over time if you're taking time away. Well, a video-based training course, whether it's in DVD format or online format or app format, that is something that can keep you involved and keep you interested along the way and allow you to do all your preparation ahead of time. Sporty's just recently released a brand new primary flight training course called our Learn to Fly course. It is generically termed Learn to Fly course because just as I mentioned before that there is an aircraft for all different missions and shapes and sizes and something for everyone, and then I went that direction when describing pilot certificates, we understand that, and we understand that right out of the gate when you might be begin this Learn to Fly process, you may not know exactly what certificate option you wish to pursue, or if you do, perhaps along the way you may change your mind at some point. So what we do in one course is provide you with that modular building block philosophy that I've been referencing, that is proven the test of time and proven success in all walks of life, not just learning to fly, but in all kinds of educational formats and venues. We provide options for private pilot, recreational pilot, sport pilot, and earning that first solo. We do it all in one packaged course. It's available in a DVD format, an online format, or an app format, and it's available at a what I'll say is I honestly believe the best value in aviation, $249, which is about a lesson, maybe a little over a flight lesson. You're able to get a resource that will be with you forever, that will be your constant one singular preparation tool and one singular venue for all the information you're going to need to learn to fly, not only to prepare for your written exam, but also your flight test, all of your daily lessons, and even assist you and aid you after the pilot's license as you fly. So really a no-brainer to have a resource like this in your arsenal. Regardless of the format you choose, our course comes with a triple guarantee. If you use this course, you're guaranteed to pass your written test, oral exam, and flight test, or your money back. This course really is based on 50 years of flight training history of the Sporty's organization, and it features a great deal of award-winning video and broadcast quality video. And we're not in classrooms and we're not behind green screens. We are in and around airplanes throughout. Advanced 3D animations and graphics help explain complicated material and subjects. We even bring in what we call airfax segments throughout this video training that are hosted by legendary writer, aviation writer Richard L. Collins, who has a real practical approach to how you apply a lot of this information and knowledge, and he will do so in airfax segments that will help break up your training material throughout. We even provide the written test endorsement, the signature that's required by the FAA to go take your test. We provide it directly from the course as long as you meet some of our requirements. We provide a practical test standards study guide. The practical test standards, or the PTS, those are all the guidelines, parameters by which you will be tested, judged in order to earn your pilot certificate. So your training is all moving you closer to that direction, closer to within those parameters. We provide that latest guidance material from the FAA, and we even cross-reference it back to where you can find that content within our course, making your preparation easy, and also confirming that all the required material is indeed found within the training course. We include a flight training syllabus or training course outline as part of it, so you can bridge what you do in your home study with what you'll do in the actual airplane. Our courseware is FAA Wings accepted, meaning you can earn credit in the FAA Wings system, and we have a commitment to always providing up-to-date video. The DVD format, if you're one who likes to sit back on your PC or Mac or in front of your big screen TV, DVDs make a great option. Over 23 hours of video on a set of DVDs. We provide a very easy to follow roadmap inside to explain to you how to follow either the solo, sport, recreational, or private pilot track, and it includes all those other materials that I've mentioned. The online format I'm very excited about is we're the first in aviation to be providing an online course in this format. It's delivered in a brand new HTML format. What that means to you is it's available across almost all web browsers, including on your iPad. A lot of online courseware, as you've probably experienced if you've researched it all, is Flash-based, which means it won't work on your Apple products, whereas the HTML5 version will. The online format is designed to function just like the DVD format. We've included all the features plus giving you some additional content here. Very intuitive to use. We've put a great deal of effort into all of our help functionality. So if you do run across any questions or stumbling blocks, there's always a help feature available to better describe the various components. There is no software to install. This is a streaming video, so all the software, all the content actually lives on servers elsewhere. You're just utilizing an internet connection in order to access the material. And every time you log in, everything that you've done will be saved and it will present it back to you. And you can always be assured that you're receiving the latest video training content each and every time you log in. Because as I mentioned before, we're constantly updating video. And there can be, on occasion, updates or changes to practical test standards or guidance or regulations, and we're going to get that out in all of our formats as quickly as possible. As you can see on the home page of the online course there, your three key components or three primary components you would use in terms of initially and as part of your preparation would be the video training, which is the core, and then also a dedicated written test prep function. And then finally an interactive maneuvers guide. The interactive maneuvers guide is not something I've mentioned yet. That is exclusive to the online format as well as the app format. It's available separately with DVDs. But what that portion is all of your required maneuvers for the certification. What we provide there is a very detailed textual description of those maneuvers, and then we also provide a very easy to follow animation so that you understand ahead of time from an outside the aircraft view exactly how the aircraft should be performing as part of those maneuvers. The video training, again, we are broken down by volumes and then topics. As you view the video, progress will be tracked along the left-hand left-hand bar there. Let's see if I can put a spotlight on over here. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the video training menu. So as you progress through each one of these segments, you'll have a notation that that segment has been completed. But again, you still have access. You can still go back and review over and over again. That's a great part about video training, is it's not a one-time through. It's not like sitting in a movie theater where you might have missed something that was said and then you can't go back. Here you can stop, pause. This video console here has all the traditional controls that you would expect: fast forward and rewind and pause, and it also has a full screen option, so you don't have to view the video within this small console. And then you can see while in this video training segment we have these global menu options across the top. The home screen will take you back to the previous screenshot we just saw where you can access any of the modules. You can also use this drop-down section to quickly advance to another section, for instance, written test prep or interactive maneuvers guide or the training course. Progress report, I'm going to talk a little more about that, but progress reports give you a quick snapshot of how much video training you've accomplished, and also keeps a record of any practice written exams that you have taken. This notes section is universal to all the segments. The notes section allows you to do that, take notes. You can click that and a little notepad will come up and you can take notes or jot down a question you might want to ask a flight instructor. The select a course option takes you back to the main course selection page where you could choose either, as I mentioned, sport, recreational, or private pilot if you're looking to go around, and of course the help being self-explanatory. The Test prep, moving to the description of the test prep mode. The test prep comes with 3 modes of operation: learning mode, flashcard mode, and test mode. Learning mode allows you to select specific categories that you wish to review, or we also have the option to just choose random categories and random questions. This is a great place to start because you can really hone in on weaker areas and areas that need more focus. And this provides the same questions that you would get in test mode, but the learning mode will then give you the option and show you explanations to each of the answer choices and show you correct answers along the way. The flashcard mode functions the exact same way except for one key component, and that is we remove answer choices. So answer choices are not shown. When you wish to see an answer choice, you can simply click on the screen and it will show you the answer just like a flashcard would be. And then finally the test mode, which will provide you with a simulated FAA written exam just like you would experience on the real test and in a timed environment. And down here in this figures option is where we can actually pull up figures to take a look at. This is a shot of how that category selection page looks, and this sample I'm giving here is within the private pilot course option, but you can select any or all of those subject areas, or across the bottom here you can provide a random mix of questions. This is a shot at learning mode. After we've selected figures, you can see your question outlined down on the left margin. As you complete a question or as you get a question correct, you'll see a green check mark. If you happen to miss a question, you'll see a red X. Those will replace the blue dots. You can navigate the questions by clicking on this left-hand margin, or you can use the next or previous functions here. The mark a question option will allow you to give it a special notation in the left menu, and at the end you can come back to it if one question is stumping you, if you'd like to give it more consideration. And then as you give your selection there, it will give you instant feedback as to whether you've gotten the answer correct, and then provide you, of course, with explanations for each of the answer choices. Test mode looks very much the same, only when you make an answer selection, it's not going to show you the answer because, again, this is a test environment. So we have a timer going here with the real time that you'll have to take the FAA exam, and just a quick sneak peek there of the number of questions and how you're progressing. Flashcard mode, as you see here on the left, as we see this question, there are no answer choices. But after selecting Show Answer, you can see the next screenshot shows you the answer, and if you got that correct mentally, answering that in your head, you could mark that question as correct or as incorrect. And there's a shot at how the progress reports would look. There's 2 tabs on the top, one videos, one test. So I have the test tab showing here, and this shows you each of the tests that have been taken, time to complete, correct answers, total questions, and the grade. You can delete any of these if you don't wish to save them, but they will be here. The videos tab will just give you a quick pie chart of the videos watched versus not watched. And finally, the interactive maneuvers guide, as I mentioned, a full text description along with parameters and desired outcomes. And then selecting the little video icon on top left will open this pop-out video console where you can watch a very detailed animation of the maneuver taking place. Other components that you'll see in the bottom left on the online course homepage is a training course outline. Again, that's a flight training syllabus. The interactive practical test standards, as I mentioned, is a reprint of all the parameters that you'll be held to on the actual practical test, and we cross-reference that material back to where you'll find it on the exam. The study guide is just some supplemental information that you'll find that's broken down by volumes. And finally, the endorsement and wings options over here. Click on those to earn your FAA Wings credit or written exam endorsements. Both of those functions will only be available to you when you've completed all of the video training and accomplished 2 practice tests with a minimum score of 80%, and then those features will be unlocked. And finally, we have a link here to that great online resource I mentioned very early on, LearnToFlyHere.com. Just a wealth of information and knowledge, and even some video on the Learn to Fly process. The app format, for you Apple users, we do have a dedicated iOS app that's custom designed for iPad and iPhone. Of course, it's universal, so once you purchase, you can use it on both devices. For example, if you have an iPhone and an iPad, includes everything in the DVD and online courseware. But again, for all of you app users, you know what I'm talking about. It has the app feel, and the biggest advantage you can get with the dedicated app version is that this gives you the option to save video segments for offline viewing. Whereas with the online course, of course, you do have to have an internet connection. With the app format, we allow you to save certain video segments, or even all the segments if you'd like, to your device, so that if you're taking that airline flight or in a position where you don't have internet access, you can take a look. There's a shot at how the video training looks in the app format in the dedicated download manager. This view, of course, is portrait on an iPad, is what I provided you here. These are the various video segments. If you have an internet connection, you can click on the play icons and it will play the video, or you can select the download option on the right of that segment, and it will put that segment, queue that segment up in a download manager, and then it will be saved to your device, and you'll have a specific annunciation there letting you know that that video segment has been saved, so again you can view it offline. There's a shot at what the interactive PTS looks like, also in the app format, and I showed this here just so you could see these video icons along the right. It's that simple that the video training related to that element of the PTS, you can pull that up simply by clicking on that blue video icon. Okay, kind of shifting gears out of the Sporty's new Learn to Fly course and back to getting started. First thing I'll recommend, take that introductory flight. In order to help you find a flight school, we do have a resource available at sportys.com, or excuse me, LearnToFlyHere.com, or you can use sportys.com/FE, short for flight experience, and we'll even sell you a pre-packaged introductory flight that can be redeemed at hundreds of flight school locations across the country. Sporty at LearnToFlyHere.com also again has some video training that will give you a sneak peek of what your introductory flight will be like. Some aircraft you might see at the airport, the conventional tricycle gear airplanes, tailwheel airplanes, high wing, low wing, helicopters, jets, and much more. You'll see, depending on the airport you're at, you'll again see aircraft in all shapes, sizes, and variety. So you kind of learn the lingo, so to speak, to help you out on that first trip to the airport. The fuselage refers to the main body of the aircraft. The wings are essentially self-explanatory. The empennage relates to the tail of the aircraft. We have flight controls that are located inside the aircraft, and you can have a couple different types of landing gear, either the type of landing gear that's fixed in place, or we also have retractable landing gear that will fold up into the aircraft for cruise flight. In terms of power plant, or what powers the airplane, you can either have piston-powered aircraft or turbine. I think for the most part the general rule is that in the flight training environment you're generally going to have a single-engine piston-powered airplane that might look like this, or it could possibly be a low-wing design. What controls the airplane? Well, we have ailerons that are located on the outboard portion of the wings, and that controls the roll of the aircraft. We have flaps that are located on the inboard section of the wings, which changes the whole shape and curve of the wing, and what that allows us to do is fly the aircraft a little steeper and a little slower, which is advantageous for takeoff and landing. We have an elevator located towards the rear of the aircraft, and that's responsible for the pitching moment. And then finally a rudder, just like you'd see on the back end of a boat, that controls the yaw of the aircraft. Inside the airplane, we have, traditionally speaking, we have a yoke which can move left and right and in and out. That controls left and right movement of the ailerons, which again are on the wings, and controls your rolling movement. In and out controls the elevator for up and down. I'm showing a control yoke. We can also have a stick installation, which will function the same, but it just will have a different feel and look. And then finally, rudder pedals on the floor, which also double as brakes, but in flight they move the letter left and right for yawing movement. A couple of different styles of flight decks, which are drastically different, as you can see, but believe it or not, they all are giving us the same basic flight information with the same basic flight instruments. Just one is digital and one is analog. Navigation this day and age, you're likely to see some very modern navigation equipment in a lot of the aircraft at your local flight school, including Global Positioning System, which is quickly becoming our primary means of navigation, just like it is in your automobiles, and even autopilots. Engine controls, you have a throttle and mixture control. They won't necessarily look like that, but they'll either go in and out or up or down. We have a mixture control in the aircraft that controls fuel flow to the engine because of our varying altitudes. We need to achieve the right fuel-air mixture. What keeps an airplane flying? When anyone finds out that you're learning to fly, the first thing they're going to ask you is, well, how does the airplane stay in the air? Well, the answer is lift. There are four forces aerodynamically acting on the airplane: lift, weight, thrust, and drag. And lift is generated really by two factors: by accelerating more air over the top of the wing and creating an area of low pressure, and also creating kind of an action-reaction type by airflow hitting the bottom of the wing. You will accomplish, as part of your intro flight, the time-honored tradition of the pre-flight inspection, where the pilot will walk the aircraft and check general condition, fuel, oil, flight controls, tires, and brakes. Every airplane you ever go flying in is checked by the flight crew before every flight. The taxi, one thing to be aware of, and one thing that will take some getting used to, is the aircraft that you'll be flying on these intro flights are steered by your feet through use of the rudder pedals, because on the ground the rudder pedals serve double duty, and they actually can, in a lot of aircraft, steer the nose wheel. So you'll be using your feet. So the word of advice, the best thing that and what I let people know is, especially your first few times, simply put your hands on your knees to try to fight that resistance to drive the airplane with either the stick or the yoke. The flight, hopefully you will have an opportunity to put your hands on the control yoke for the takeoff, where you will accelerate to a safe speed that will allow the airplane to achieve enough weight to overcome lift and break free of the ground. A wonderful feeling. You'll do what we call the four fundamentals of flight, possibly some climbs, some turns and descents, and finally a standardized traffic pattern back to a successful landing. Moving on to some things to think about in terms of choosing a flight school. A lot of this is common sense. Think about every aspect of your life and all the businesses that you currently interact with and why you interact with those businesses. What attributes do they have? Do they seem honest? They're reputable members of the community. Do you feel safe? Are your expectations being met? Is there a good structure in place? All of those same attributes relate to a flight school. So pretty much the parameters you use with choosing any business can also relate to a flight school. While flight training might be a unique product, business operations should be pretty universal. Same with a flight instructor. A lot of this, I put a lot of stock in feel. If it feels right, it's probably right. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Make sure that things do feel comfortable. Make sure information is being presented professionally and comfortably. You should not, have fear when you're partaking in some of these flight training activities, and make sure there's also some mechanism that you can use to go to someone else in the organization, that there's a manager of some sort, a chief instructor of some sort that you can go to, and someone that's very enthusiastic and enjoys what they do, I think can do wonders in terms of your progress and success. How long does it take? Some million-dollar questions that I know a lot of you are eager to ask. The answer is it's all up to you. Continuity of training is paramount. And also having some of those preparation resources is extremely important. I mentioned before that I believe sport and recreational pilot training can be done in a legitimate 30 to 40 hours of pilot training time. Each person's a little different. Remember, this is physical skill we're talking about as well. But a lot of it is what you will put in at a cost of, and this is going to vary tremendously all around the country and depending on what aircraft, but, the range can be anywhere, I think, $3,000 to $4,000 on the low end to, probably $6,000 to $7,000 for sport or recreational pilot. Private pilot can be substantially more. Averages around the country I hear right now anywhere between 65 to 75 hours of pilot training time. And again, a lot of it depending on continuity of training and where you're at in the country. But expect to spend in the $10,000 and up for private pilot training. And again, I encourage you to look at that in terms of a value proposition. Remember, this is not something you can fail. These aren't letter grades that are handled out. In pilot training, we simply train to proficiency. We train until you meet our goals and objectives. This will be our last poll for the evening, and that is, actually I'm having just a tad bit of technical difficulty in being able to launch this poll. So I think we're going to skip this poll for now. Why haven't you started? But what I will do is address each one. Remember, if one of your obstacles has been that it's taken too long or it's too expensive, remember that most institutions, and those who aren't, I encourage you to be leery about, but are pay-as-you-go, so you're only paying for the time that you're actually using in the services that are being provided. So it's not a massive amount of money all at once or all up front. And also, most institutions and most reputable places will accommodate your schedule. They will be flexible, evenings, weekends, etc., so that you can come train when it's convenient. After the certificate, remember, this is a gateway. We have rental opportunities, we have ownership, partnerships, flying clubs, all kinds of adventure, and all kinds of neat and interesting things you can do in terms of additional training and additional privileges and ratings, etc. With that, I'm going to address just a few questions that came in during the webinar because we're right at the end of our allotted time. I had one question related to if there's specific aircraft that are recommended. No, the answer is no. If the aircraft is safe and passes pre-flight inspection and appears to be well maintained, that's what's most important. You will acquire some leanings one way or the other, whether you like low wings versus high wings, but I do not think that that's of great importance initially. Another question is related to again, some more questions related to, well, how do I find the right place to learn to fly, etc. I'd like to steer everyone to that learntoflyhere.com website. Again, we have some great resources there for finding a flight school in your particular area, and then a lot of information and other articles and other video training. With that, especially since we're up against our timeline here, I'm going to bid a farewell for the evening. I want to thank you once again for joining me tonight. I had a great time. I hope you learned some good insight and information on the process. Congratulations on your first step and decision on turning in tonight and on your way to learning to fly. This webinar, again, as a reminder, will be archived at sportys.com/webinars. Thank you for joining us, and have a great night.